Hey, and welcome back to JBC English Learning Academy. My name is Lura, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you truly love Jesus, like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep watching the video believing in Jesus, you will learn something good, and comment to let us know what you are watching. Your support truly helps this channel grow. All right, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. In every workplace, there is a room that seems simple from the outside, maybe just a glass door with a small sign that says meeting room, but inside that room, something very different happens, because inside that room, voices change, posture changes, and people suddenly speak in ways they would never speak in the hallway, and this is where our story begins, inside a meeting room on a warm Monday morning, where a young professional named Aria sits at a long wooden table, her hands close together, her fingers tapping softly because she wants to speak. She needs to speak, but she is not sure if her voice will come out the way she wants, and she is afraid that her words will sound weak or unclear, and that old familiar fear, the fear many language learners feel, rises slowly inside her. The fear of speaking in front of others, especially in a meeting. She looks around at the room, noticing how the senior managers sit back in their chairs with relaxed shoulders, noticing how easily they laugh, how smoothly their voices travel from one wall to the other, and she wonders how they learn to speak like that, because to her it feels like they were born with confidence, as if confidence automatically came with age, or status, or experience. But what she does not know yet, what she is about to discover, is that confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you practice slowly, gently, and patiently, just like speaking English itself. The meeting begins with the usual sounds, papers moving, chairs sliding, people greeting each other with that polite morning voice. But Aria is only half listening because inside her mind a quiet conversation is happening, a conversation between the voice she wants to have, the strong one, and the voice she fears she will use, the small one. She is here today because she has a presentation to give, a short one, nothing big, only 2 minutes, but for her, those 2 minutes feel like a long climb up a mountain. She practiced at home. She practiced in front of the mirror. She even recorded her voice on her phone. And still she worries that the moment she begins speaking in the meeting, her English will suddenly disappear, her thoughts will freeze, and everyone will notice that she is nervous. She takes another deep breath, trying to calm her heartbeat, trying to slow her breathing, and slowly she tells herself, just speak slowly, just one sentence at a time. The manager, a tall man named Mr. Lewis, looks around the table and says, "Okay, everyone, let's begin," and the room settles into a quiet stillness. People open their laptops, click their pens, and wait for their turn to speak. Aria knows her turn will come soon, but she tries to listen, to understand the rhythm of the meeting, because in every meeting there's a rhythm, a flow of voices, a pattern of conversation, and learning to feel that rhythm is part of sounding confident. She notices how the first speaker, a woman named Clara, speaks slowly and clearly, not rushing, not trying to sound perfect, simply explaining her idea in simple words. Aria realizes that Clara is not using complicated language. She is not trying to impress anyone. She is simply speaking with calmness, and the calmness makes her sound confident. This small observation becomes the first quiet lesson of the day for Aria. Confidence is not speed, and confidence is not big words. Confidence is calm, steady speech. As the meeting continues, Aria feels the moment approaching when she will need to speak. Her body feels warm, her shoulders tight. She imagines herself standing, but she knows this meeting does not require standing, and for some reason that comforts her because speaking while sitting feels less frightening than standing in front of a group. When Mr. Lewis finally calls her name, something strange happens. She feels both afraid and ready at the same time. Afraid because she knows everyone is looking at her, and ready because she practiced so much that her words are quietly waiting, like a line of gentle birds ready to fly. She takes a small breath and begins speaking, slowly, carefully, one sentence at a time. Her voice is soft at first, but she keeps going. She notices her hands trembling slightly, so she places them on the table to keep them steady. She does not rush, and she does not try to sound perfect. She remembers the calmness of Clara's voice and tries to borrow just a little of that calmness. After a few sentences, she feels her voice becoming slightly stronger, slightly clearer, and she begins to understand something important. Confidence does not appear before you speak. Confidence appears while you speak. It grows each time your voice meets the air. It grows each time you choose to continue. When she finishes, the room stays quiet for half a second, and she fears she made a mistake. But then she hears something she did not expect. "Thank you, Aria." "That was clear," Mr. Lewis says, and the simple word clear feels like a warm light inside her, because she did not try to be impressive. She only tried to be clear, and it was enough. The meeting continues, but Aria keeps thinking about that one moment when her voice did not disappear, when her English did not break, when she spoke and people understood her. It is a small moment, but small moments like this are how confidence begins. When the meeting ends, people stand up and leave slowly, talking softly about their day. Aria stays behind for a moment, gathering her things, feeling both relief and pride. She is surprised at how calm she feels now, and she wonders why she was so afraid, but she knows the fear will return next time, and that is okay, because confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is the ability to speak even when fear whispers in your ear. She walks out of the room, and the hallway feels brighter than before, as though she has stepped into a slightly different world, a world where her voice matters a little more than she believed yesterday. As she walks back to her desk, she remembers how many nights she spent practicing English, repeating sentences until they felt natural, recording her voice even when she hated how it sounded. She remembers thinking that real confidence was far away from her, something she might have someday but not now. Yet today she saw the truth. Confidence begins the moment you choose to speak, not the moment you feel perfect. And in that small realization, she feels a quiet transformation, the beginning of a new story she did not even know she was writing, a story in which her voice slowly, gently, and steadily becomes something she trusts. And this is where our English lesson begins, not with grammar, not with vocabulary, but with the understanding that speaking confidently in meetings is not magic and not talent. It is practice, awareness, and simple, clear communication. If you have ever felt like Aria, if you have ever felt your heart racing before you speak in a meeting, then this story is also your story. And in the next part of this journey, we will go deeper into her experience, discovering how she learns to use English with confidence, clarity, and a calm voice that grows stronger every time she speaks. This is the beginning of your transformation too, and as we continue together, you will learn how to speak in meetings with the same gentle confidence that Aria is slowly discovering, one sentence at a time. The day after the meeting, Aria wakes up with a strange mix of feelings, a kind of gentle excitement mixed with the memory of her fear from yesterday, and she lies in bed for a moment thinking about her experience, thinking about how her voice sounded, how her English flowed, how people listened to her. It was only a 2-minute presentation, nothing big, and yet the memory keeps returning to her, not as something frightening, but as something meaningful, something that tells her she is changing, slowly, quietly, day by day. She gets up, makes herself a cup of warm tea, and sits by the window watching the soft morning light spread across the street. She wonders why speaking in meetings feels so different from speaking with friends or speaking at home, and she understands that meetings are places where people listen differently, where every word seems important, where silence feels heavier, and where your voice feels bigger than usual. It is in these spaces that confidence is tested, shaped, and strengthened. As she prepares for work, she thinks about something she realized yesterday. Confidence is not a large burst of courage. It is a small, calm decision repeated again and again. She decides that today, after work, she will practice speaking again, not because she must, but because she wants to feel that same sense of control she felt yesterday when she finished her presentation. This time, however, she wants to practice in a way that feels more alive and more real than standing in front of a mirror. She wants to practice the way professional speakers practice, not memorizing, not reading, but training their voice to sound calm, natural, and controlled even when they feel nervous inside. During the day, she completes her work quietly, answering emails, finishing reports, joining small discussions with her team. She notices something interesting. She is speaking more today than usual, and her voice sounds a little steadier, not loud, not bold, just steady. When her colleague asks for help, she explains her idea more clearly than before, breaking her thoughts into simple steps, speaking slowly, and for the first time she begins to understand that simple, slow speaking is not a weakness. It is a strength. Many people in the office speak quickly, pushing their ideas out as if they are afraid to lose their turn, but when she speaks slowly, people pay more attention, not less. She notices this and holds onto the lesson quietly in her mind. After work, instead of going straight home, she stops by a quiet cafe near the train station, a place filled with soft music and the quiet sound of pages turning. She chooses a seat by the window, opens her notebook, and writes the words, "Meeting Confidence Practice," at the top of a fresh page. She wants to remember every small technique she learns, because confidence is not only a feeling, it is a skill. For a moment, she closes her eyes and tries to recall how she felt yesterday just before speaking in the meeting, and she notices how clear the memory is. The pressure in her chest, the shaking in her hands, the heat on her face. She wants to understand what happened inside her and why her voice still came out even when she was afraid. She begins writing. "When I felt nervous, I tried to speak slowly. That helped." Then she writes another line. "I did not use big words. I used simple ones." As she writes, she realizes these small reflections are shaping her own method of becoming confident, one that does not depend on pretending or acting, but on awareness and practice. She continues writing, filling the page with quiet observations, and when she finishes, she reads it again and smiles. It is not a perfect list, but it feels true, and true things have power. After a few minutes, she takes out her phone and opens the voice recorder. She hesitates for a moment, feeling a small discomfort in her stomach, because recording her voice has always made her feel self-conscious, but she reminds herself that confidence grows inside discomfort. She presses the record button and begins speaking softly to herself, pretending she is in a meeting. Her voice is gentle and slow at first, but she continues. She pretends she is giving an update, just like she did yesterday. She explains a project she is working on, using simple words and clear sentences. She feels a little awkward because she is alone in a cafe speaking to her phone, but she continues anyway because practice does not need to look impressive. It only needs to happen. After a few minutes, she stops the recording and listens to her own voice. The first thing she notices is how much calmer she sounds than she expected. The second thing she notices is that her speaking pace is slower than she imagined, but in a good way. And the third thing she notices is that she often pauses before speaking, and those pauses make her sound thoughtful, not nervous. She smiles again because she realizes something important. The voice in her head is not the same as the voice in her recordings. In her head, she thinks she sounds unsure, but in the recording, she sounds clearer than she feels. This small discovery fills her with a warm sense of possibility, a calm excitement that tells her she is slowly gaining control over something that once controlled her. She listens again, this time focusing on her tone, her pronunciation, the shape of her words. She hears softness, but also clarity. She hears nervousness, but also progress. She hears a voice that wants to grow. She decides to repeat the practice again, this time using a different topic, pretending she is answering a question in a meeting. She records again, listens again, and each time her confidence grows a little more, like a plant opening itself to the sun. When she finally leaves the cafe, the sky is a soft golden color, and people hurry through the streets with tired steps, but Aria walks slowly, thinking about how different she feels compared to the morning. She realizes that confidence is not something that appears suddenly. It grows quietly through small actions, through moments of gentle practice when no one is watching. She also realizes that sounding confident does not require perfect English. It requires control, calmness, and presence. On the train ride home, she thinks about the next meeting she will attend, and instead of feeling fear, she feels curiosity. She wonders how she will speak, how she will use the calm voice she practiced today. She begins to imagine herself speaking in a meeting with slow breathing, steady words, and relaxed shoulders. She visualizes the room, the table, the people, the flow of conversation. She imagines raising her hand to speak, imagining the moment she begins her first sentence, hearing it come out steady and clear. Visualization is a powerful tool, and even though she has never tried it before, it begins to shape a quiet vision in her mind, one in which she is no longer the quiet person in the room, but someone who speaks with gentle confidence. When she gets home, she prepares a simple dinner, sits at the table, and plays her recordings again. She notices moments where her voice sounds slightly shaky, and she gently repeats the sentences without recording, just to practice the flow. She speaks softly into the air, imagining herself speaking to her future self, the self who will one day lead meetings with ease. She does not know it yet, but this little evening routine will become one of the most powerful habits of her life. As the night grows quiet, she reflects on what she learned today. She learned that simple speech is strong speech. She learned that calmness makes people listen. She learned that the voice she hears inside her mind is not always the voice others hear. She learned that confidence is built in private long before it appears in public. And she learned that recording her voice, even if it feels strange at first, is a tool that helps her grow faster than she imagined. She sits by the window again, looking out at the quiet city, thinking about how many people feel exactly like she does, how many people are afraid to speak in meetings because they think their English is not good enough or because they think their voice is too small. She wishes she could tell all of them what she discovered today, that your voice becomes confident the moment you choose to practice it, even when you feel unsure, even when you feel nervous, even when no one is listening. The next morning, When she arrives at work, she walks into the office with a little more ease in her steps, and when she speaks to her team during the morning briefing, she notices the same steady calmness she heard in her recordings. Her colleagues notice too, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, subtle way, the way people notice when someone seems more sure of themselves. One colleague even says, "You sound more confident today," and those simple words stay with her for the rest of the day, warming her gently from the inside. And while she does not say it out loud, inside her mind she whispers, "I practiced." Because that is what confidence really is, practice that grows into presence. She feels like she is stepping into a new version of herself, one who is not scared of meetings anymore, one who is learning to trust her voice, one who is starting to believe that she can speak clearly even in difficult situations. This is the quiet transformation happening inside her, and as days pass, she will continue discovering new pieces of confidence, new ways to stand, new ways to breathe, new ways to speak. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and the next meeting will bring new tests, but she is not the same person she was yesterday. She is growing. She is learning. She is becoming someone who can speak with calm confidence, even when she feels nervous inside. And in this journey, she is not alone. You listening to this story are also growing with her, learning with her, practicing with her. As her voice becomes stronger, your voice can become stronger too. As she finds courage in her calmness, you can find courage in your practice. As she learns to speak with clarity, you can learn to speak with presence. This journey belongs to both of you, and the next step is waiting just ahead, in the next part of this story, where Aria will face a new challenge in her workplace, one that will test her voice again and help her discover another powerful lesson about sounding confident in meetings. 2 days later, Aria finds herself walking toward the same meeting room where everything changed earlier that week, and although she feels a little more comfortable now, she still senses a quiet flutter in her chest, the same soft nervousness that always appears before a meeting. But today's meeting is different from the others. Today, she is not presenting anything. She is not scheduled to speak. She is only there to listen, to take notes, to observe. Or at least that is what she believes. What she does not know is that today she will face something unexpected, something many learners fear most in meetings, an unexpected question she is not prepared for. As she enters the room, she chooses a seat near the middle of the table. Not at the end, not at the front, just somewhere comfortable, a place where she feels she can blend into the flow of conversation without feeling too visible. People greet each other. The soft buzz of morning voices fills the room, and she smiles politely at her colleagues, feeling a gentle warmth from the familiarity of the setting. The meeting begins, and she listens carefully as team members share updates about a new project the company is planning. She writes simple notes, ideas, concerns, timelines, and tasks. The rhythm of the meeting feels calm, steady, predictable. But predictability doesn't last forever. Halfway through the meeting, Mr. Lewis, the manager, looks directly at Aria and says, "Aria, what do you think about this timeline? Do you see any risks from your side?" And suddenly, everything inside her freezes, not dramatically, not loudly, but softly, like a thin layer of ice forming across her thoughts. She did not expect a question. She did not prepare an answer. She did not have time to organize her ideas. Her mind races for a moment, and she feels the familiar pressure in her chest, the slight tightening of her throat, the warmth rising to her face. This is the moment many people fear most. Not the presentation, not the prepared speech, but the unexpected question, the question that arrives without warning, the question that demands a response even when your thoughts feel scattered. But this moment, this exact moment, is where confidence grows deeper roots, because real confidence is not about perfect preparation. It is about the ability to stay calm when you are not prepared. Aria takes a slow breath, remembers her practice, and does something small but powerful. She pauses. She does not rush to speak. She does not panic. She allows herself 1 second of silence, maybe 2. In that pause, she feels her mind clearing just a little. In that pause, she remembers the recordings she practiced in the cafe, the slow tone, the calm sentences. She looks at the project timeline on the screen, and instead of trying to answer everything at once, she chooses something simple. Well, she begins slowly, her voice soft but steady. From my side, I think the timeline looks possible, but maybe the design team will need more time in the second week. The room is quiet. People listen. Her words are simple, but they make sense. She is not trying to sound perfect. She is trying to be clear. She continues, I just need to double-check the details after this meeting, but I think that is the only risk for now. When she finishes speaking, something interesting happens. Nobody reacts strongly. Nobody looks confused or disappointed. Mr. Lewis nods once and says, Good point. Thanks for flagging that. And the conversation moves on, smoothly, naturally, without any pressure. Aria exhales softly, realizing she survived her first unexpected question. Not only survived it, handled it. Inside her mind, she feels a quiet wave of relief and a sudden spark of pride. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't fast. But she was calm. And calmness is what made her sound confident. As the meeting continues, she listens with new awareness. She notices that many people in the room also pause before they speak. One colleague even stops mid-sentence, thinking carefully before finishing his thought. She realizes something that surprises her. Pauses are normal. Pauses are powerful. Pauses make you sound thoughtful, not unsure. She begins to understand that confident speaking in meetings does not mean speaking without hesitation. It means using hesitation wisely. When the meeting ends, she stays behind again, pretending to organize her notes, but really she is replaying the moment in her mind, her deep breath, her slow beginning, her simple answer. It was not dramatic, but it was real progress. She feels a soft glow of achievement inside her chest, a feeling that whispers, You handled it. You did well. She walks back to her desk and places her notebook gently beside her keyboard. She opens her laptop but pauses before beginning her work. She wants to capture the moment while it is fresh. She opens a new page and writes, Today I answered an unexpected question. I paused. I breathed. I spoke slowly. It worked. She smiles as she writes the words, because the moment that felt so scary just a few minutes ago now feels like a small victory. During lunch, she sits with 2 colleagues who are also in the meeting. One of them turns to her and says, Good point you made about the design timeline. I didn't think about that. The compliment surprises her, not because she doubts her ability, but because she didn't expect anyone to notice. She thought her answer was simple, maybe too simple. But the truth is, simple answers are often the most useful ones. Later in the day, something unexpected happens again, but in a completely different way. Her colleague, Clara, the one whose calm voice inspired her earlier in the week, sits beside her during a quick break and says, "I liked how you answered in the meeting today. You took your time. That shows confidence." Aria feels a sudden warmth spread across her face, a mix of gratitude and disbelief. "Really?" she asks gently. "Yes," Clara replies. People think confidence is about fast speaking or strong opinions. But confidence is actually about control. And you showed control. Those words stay with Aria long after the conversation ends. Control. Calm. Presence. These are the elements she is learning to develop, the elements that make a person sound confident even in unexpected moments. That evening, on the train ride home, she thinks about how many times she avoided speaking because she feared sounding unsure. She always believed that quick answers were good answers, and that slow thinking meant weakness. But today she saw the opposite. Slow thinking can look strong, and simple answers can be powerful. She realizes how much pressure she used to place on herself, believing she needed to know everything immediately, believing she had to speak perfectly without pause. But now she sees that meetings are full of pauses, full of thinking, full of hesitation. It is normal. It is human. And it is okay. When she arrives home, she opens her notebook again, turns to a new page and writes, "Confident people pause. Confident people breathe. Confident people choose simple answers." She reads the words slowly, letting them settle in her mind like soft stones on a quiet path. After dinner, she decides to practice again, but this time in a new way. Instead of practicing prepared sentences, she opens her phone's voice recorder and speaks in a more spontaneous style. She asks herself questions. "What do you think about this project? Do you see any risks? What would you change?" And she answers the questions out loud, as if she is in a real meeting. She pauses before she speaks, breathes deeply, uses slow, deliberate sentences. At first, the answers feel unpolished and messy, but she remembers that messy practice leads to natural confidence. She records, listens, practices again. She notices how her pauses give her time to think. She notices how her tone becomes warmer when she breathes first. She notices that even when she hesitates, she still sounds clear. And the more she practices spontaneous speaking, the more she begins to trust herself, because confidence grows fastest in the moments when you guide yourself through uncertainty. Weeks pass, and each meeting teaches her something new. Sometimes she speaks with confidence. Sometimes she stumbles. Sometimes she forgets to breathe. Sometimes she answers smoothly. But every moment, even the difficult ones, helps her grow. And then something beautiful starts to happen. She begins asking questions in meetings. Not many, not big ones, but small, thoughtful questions. Questions that show she is paying attention. Questions that show she is becoming more comfortable speaking. The first time she asks a question, her voice shakes slightly, but the second time it shakes less, and the third time it doesn't shake at all. People listen to her, respond to her, thank her for her question. And little by little, Aria discovers that speaking in meetings is not about sounding perfect. It is about joining the conversation with calmness and clarity. One Friday afternoon, after a long week of work, her manager calls her into his office. She feels a small flicker of worry, wondering if she made a mistake. But when she sits down, he smiles and says, "I've noticed you speaking more in meetings. And I've noticed your confidence improving. I'm impressed." Aria feels a warm rush of surprise. She had not realized her progress was visible. Thank you, she says softly. You're growing fast, he continues. Keep speaking. Your voice matters. She leaves his office with a sense of pride she has never felt before. Her voice, it matters. The idea stays with her all evening, echoing softly in her mind. And as she walks home through the early evening light, she realizes that the unexpected question, the moment she feared most, was the moment that taught her the most. It showed her that confidence is not the absence of uncertainty. Confidence is the ability to stay calm inside uncertainty. And this lesson, this one powerful lesson, is something she will carry with her forever, something that will guide her in every future meeting, every presentation, every conversation. And it is a lesson for you too, a message woven gently into the story. You do not need to be perfect to sound confident. You only need to be present, calm, and clear. The next month arrives quietly, slipping into the rhythm of Aria's life like a calm breeze, and with it comes a new season of meetings, deadlines, and projects. But by now, something inside her has changed. She no longer walks into meetings with the same tightness in her chest. She no longer worries about every word before she speaks. She no longer fears the sudden question. Her voice still shakes sometimes, yes, and the nervous flutter still appears, of course. It is human, but now she knows what to do with it. She knows how to breathe. She knows how to pause. She knows how to speak slowly, simply, clearly. And because of this, something new begins to happen. People listen to her more. One Monday morning, the team receives news that their department will be presenting a major update to the regional directors next week. The presentation needs slides, data, explanations, and clear communication from the team. As the manager reviews the tasks, he looks at Aria and says, "I'd like you to lead the first part of the presentation." Her heart jumps, not in fear, but in surprise. Led? Present first? She has never opened a presentation before. She swallows gently, her mind racing with thoughts. Can I do it? Will I sound confident? Will I freeze? But then she remembers the unexpected question. She remembers how she handled it. She remembers her recordings, her practice, her slow speaking. Her breath softens and she nods. "Yes, I can do that," she says. For the rest of the day, the thought of leading the presentation follows her quietly, like a soft shadow. She knows this is a new challenge, one that will test everything she has learned. But she also knows this is an opportunity, a chance to step into a bigger space, a chance to use her voice differently, a chance to lead. That evening, she sits at her desk at home with her laptop open, staring at a blank slide. She feels a little nervous, but she also feels ready. She begins by writing simple sentences, not long paragraphs. She writes the key points she needs to explain, the project overview, the timeline, the early results. She reminds herself that simple words are strong words. Clear words are confident words. She designs the slide slowly, paying attention to the flow and the order, imagining how her voice will guide the room from one idea to the next. Once the slides are done, she opens her voice recorder again. She takes a long breath and practices the introduction. "Good morning. I'm Aria, and I will start today with a quick overview of our project." She speaks slowly, letting each word land gently. She listens to herself, adjusts her tone, practices again. She repeats the introduction 10 times, 20 times, until the words feel like water flowing softly from her thoughts. The next day, she arrives at work a little earlier than usual. She sits at her desk and practices again quietly, whispering the introduction under her breath. She imagines the meeting room, the long table, the regional directors sitting with their notebooks open. She imagines standing at the front of the room. She imagines the quiet moment before she speaks. Instead of fear, she imagines calmness filling her body, slow and steady. As the week passes, she continues practicing, and something interesting happens. She begins to enjoy it. She likes feeling the shape of her own voice. She likes hearing herself grow more comfortable. She likes the idea that she is preparing not to impress, but to communicate, to guide, to share something clearly. Confidence does not feel like a loud flame inside her. It feels like a quiet lamp, steady, warm, present. Finally, the day of the big presentation arrives. The sun is soft behind the clouds as Aria gets ready for work. She chooses a simple outfit that makes her feel comfortable and professional. She stands in front of her mirror for a moment and looks at herself quietly. She remembers the girl who was afraid to speak in meetings, the girl who felt her voice shake every time someone looked at her. She breathes gently and whispers, "You can do this." And it does not feel like she is lying. It feels true. When she arrives at the office, the atmosphere is slightly different. People walk a little faster, speak a little quieter. The conference room is arranged neatly with a projector, a long row of chairs for the directors, and name cards along the table. As she enters the room with her team, she feels that small flutter again, the soft nervousness. But she places her hand on the edge of the table, feels its solid surface, and breathes slowly. The directors arrive, greeting the team with polite smiles. The room fills with the sound of chairs moving, laptops opening, pens clicking. When everything settles, Mr. Lewis stands at the front of the room and begins. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're here to share our project progress. To start, I'd like to invite Aria to present the overview." Aria stands. She feels the room shift. She feels eyes turn to her. She feels a soft wave of heat on her cheeks. But she does not rush. She does not panic. She remembers her practice. She walks to the front of the room, stands with her feet steady, and places one hand gently on the side of the table. She looks at the directors, smiles softly, and begins. "Good morning. My name is Aria, and I'll start with a quick overview of our project." Her voice is calm, clear, steady. She sees one of the directors nod slightly. She clicks to the first slide and continues. As she speaks, something beautiful happens. She feels her words flowing with ease, not because she is fearless, but because she is present. She watches the directors taking notes. She sees their attention focused on her slide. She notices that she is controlling the pace of the room with her voice, not by speaking loudly, but by speaking clearly. Halfway through the overview, one of the directors raises a hand and says, "Can you explain why the second phase takes longer than the first?" It is another unexpected question, but this time, she is not surprised. She pauses, breathes, and answers slowly, just as she practiced. "Yes, of course. The second phase includes more testing and adjustments, so it naturally needs more time. But we have already started preparing early to make the transition smooth." The director nods. "Thank you," he says simply. And Aria continues. When her section ends, she finishes with a gentle conclusion that covers the overview. Now I'll pass it to my colleague. She steps back from the front of the room, sits down, and feels a warm wave of pride washing through her. Her hands tremble slightly under the table, but she feels good. She feels strong. She feels like she led the room for those few minutes. During the break afterward, one of the directors approaches her and says, "You speak very clearly. It's easy to follow you." The compliment feels like sunlight on her shoulders. She smiles, says thank you, and feels her confidence grow deeper, more rooted, more natural. When the presentation ends and everyone leaves the room, Aria stays for a moment, touching the edge of the table again, feeling its solidness, remembering how it felt to stand there at the front, how her voice felt, how the room felt. She realizes she did something she never believed she could do 1 year ago. She led a room full of senior leaders. She spoke with calm confidence. She answered a tough question. She guided the first part of a major presentation. Walking back to her desk, she feels light, taller somehow, not physically, but inside. And she knows that this moment, this day, is a turning point, not because she was perfect, but because she was brave.
Because she practiced.
Because she spoke with intention. When she gets home that night, she writes slowly in her notebook. Today I led the room. I was nervous, but I spoke clearly. I paused. I answered well. I did it. She reads the sentence again and again, letting it sink into her memory. And then she writes something even more powerful. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you practice into existence. Because now she understands what confidence truly is. It is not a gift given by others. It is a skill you give yourself. It grows in silence, in practice, in breathing, in pausing, in speaking simply even when you feel uncertain. And as she closes her notebook, she realizes something important. She is no longer just learning to speak confidently in meetings. She is becoming someone who leads with confidence. Someone whose voice carries calm strength. Someone who no longer hides behind silence, but steps forward gently, slowly, clearly. And the most beautiful part is this: her journey is still not over. There is still more to learn, more to practice, more ways to grow. The final part of this story will show how her confidence becomes something she shares with others, how she goes from learner to. The season slowly shifts into late spring, and with each passing week, Aria feels herself walking into the office with a different kind of energy, calmer, lighter, steadier. She does not walk faster or speak louder. She simply feels more present, more aware of her voice, more comfortable inside her own skin. And the people around her begin to sense it too. They don't talk about it openly, but they notice how she asks questions more often, how she joins discussions with clarity, how she speaks during meetings with a slow, thoughtful tone that makes people listen. She is no longer the nervous newcomer. She is becoming someone people trust. But confidence is not a straight line. It grows in unexpected places. And one morning, an opportunity arrives that will test her voice in a new way, one she never expected. It begins with a simple email. She opens her inbox with her cup of warm tea beside her, expecting normal messages, the usual tasks and updates. But at the top of her inbox sits an email from her manager, marked important. She clicks it gently, feeling a tiny flicker of curiosity. The message is short. Aria, we're launching a new training program for junior employees next month. I want you to co-lead a session on communication skills. I think you're the right person for it. Let's talk today. For a long moment, she just stares at the screen, her heart beating fast, not with fear, not exactly, but with a deep surprise. Co-lead a session? Teach others? Her? She reads the message again, making sure she didn't misunderstand. But the words stay the same. Her manager wants her to guide junior employees. Her manager thinks she is ready. Her manager trusts her voice enough to let her teach others. She places her hand on her desk to steady herself and whispers softly, "Me? Really?" Half of her feels honored. The other half feels unsure. But as she breathes slowly, she remembers something she wrote in her notebook. Confidence is something you practice into existence. And maybe this moment, this invitation, is the next step in that practice. When she meets her manager later that morning, he explains the idea. New employees often feel nervous in meetings, especially those who are not native English speakers. The company wants to support them better, create a safe environment where they can learn to speak clearly and confidently. The training will be simple, practical, and friendly. We need someone calm, he says, someone patient, someone who understands what it feels like to be nervous in meetings. And I think that someone is you. Hearing that makes her eyes soften. She realizes she is not being chosen because she speaks perfectly. She is being chosen because she understands the journey. She understands fear. She understands growth. She understands how it feels when your voice shakes, how it feels when English feels too fast, how it feels when you want to speak but hesitate. And this understanding, this empathy, is what gives her the power to guide others. She agrees to co-lead the session. And for the rest of the day, she thinks about what she will teach. She thinks about the quiet techniques that changed her life, the pauses, the breathing, the simple sentences, the gentle tone. She thinks about the many moments when practice slowly transformed her fear into clarity. And she begins to imagine sharing those moments with others, helping them the way she helped herself. A week later, the training room is prepared. Chairs arranged in a wide circle. A projector at the front. Soft lights. A welcoming space. 10 junior employees arrive, looking exactly how Aria once looked, nervous, quiet, trying hard to appear confident, but clearly unsure inside. As they sit down, some fidget with pens, some look at the floor, some smile politely but quietly. Her co-leader begins the session with a simple introduction, then turns to Aria and says, "Now Aria will guide the first part." Aria steps forward, and for a moment, she feels the familiar flutter again, that small feeling that always arrives before she speaks to a group of people. But this time, the feeling does not scare her. It feels like an old friend, a reminder of the journey she walked. She gives herself one slow breath, lifts her head, and begins. "Hi everyone," she says gently. "My name is Aria. I'm really happy to meet you. And I want to start with something simple. If you feel nervous speaking in meetings, that is normal. And if your voice shakes, that is normal too. If you forget your words sometimes, also normal." She sees heads lift, eyes widen, shoulders relax. She continues. "I used to feel that way every time I entered a meeting room. And I want to share something that helped me. Confidence is not something you suddenly have. It is something you build slowly with practice. And it grows each time you speak, even if you feel unsure." The room grows softly quiet. People listen closely. She continues speaking, gently but clearly, explaining her small techniques, pausing before speaking, breathing slowly, using simple sentences, not rushing ideas, trusting silence. She describes how pauses make you sound thoughtful, how slow speaking makes people listen more, how simple English is powerful English. She even demonstrates a short example showing the difference between rushed speech and calm speech. The junior employees watch her with interest. Some nod. Some smile slightly. One of them raises a hand and says, "Can I ask, how did you stop being afraid of meetings?" Aria pauses, feeling the weight of the question, and answers with honesty. "I didn't stop being afraid. I just learned to speak anyway." A light laugh spreads across the room. Not mocking, but relieved, grateful. People relax even more. As the training continues, Aria asks them to practice short introductions, just 1 or 2 sentences. At first they speak quickly, like she once did, but she guides them gently. "Try again a little slower this time. Now take a breath first. Now try again." And slowly, beautifully, their voices begin to change. Not dramatically, not instantly, but gently. They begin sounding calmer, clearer, more present. During a short break, one of the participants approaches her and says, "When you talk, it's easy to understand. You don't use difficult English. It makes me feel less scared." Aria smiles warmly because that was exactly her goal. She always believed she needed big words to sound smart. But now she knows the truth. Clarity is stronger than complexity. Presence is stronger than speed. After the break, her co-leader guides another exercise, and Aria sits at the back watching the young employees practice. She sees their nervous smiles, their uncertain starts, their small pauses. And she sees their progress. And as she observes them, something inside her begins to shift again. She realizes she is no longer just participating in meetings. She is shaping them, guiding others, helping new voices grow. She is becoming the kind of person she once admired, the kind of person who speaks with calm confidence and makes others feel safe to speak too. The training ends with soft applause, warm smiles, and gentle thank yous. People leave the room talking softly about what they learned, promising to practice, promising to breathe slowly next time, promising to trust their voices a little more. When the room finally empties, Aria stands alone in the quiet space. She looks at the empty chairs, imagining the nervous faces that were sitting there just an hour ago. She remembers her own journey, the fear, the trembling voice, the quiet practice. And she realizes she has become someone she never expected to become, someone others look to for guidance, someone whose voice holds calm strength, someone who can lead a room with simple, gentle clarity. As she turns off the lights and closes the training room door behind her, she feels a deep, peaceful pride. Not an ego pride, not a loud pride, but a warm one, a silent one. The kind that grows inside when you realize you have changed, not because you wished for it, but because you worked for it, step by step, breath by breath, meeting by meeting. The rest of the week passes softly. During a team meeting, she speaks naturally, without overthinking. When a colleague struggles to explain something, she steps in with a clear, simple sentence that helps everyone understand. When a new employee joins their team, she welcomes them with a warm smile and says, "If you ever feel nervous in meetings, I understand. I can help." Her voice has become something new, not loud, not forceful, but stable. Strong in a gentle way.
Clear in a warm way.
And that is the kind of confidence people trust the most. One afternoon, as she sits at her desk finishing her work, her manager passes by and says, "Aria, I heard the junior team loved your session." She looks up, surprised he already received feedback. You've come a long way, he adds. Your confidence has become part of our team culture. Those words settle into her heart like a quiet melody. She never expected her growth to inspire others. She never expected her calm voice to influence a team. She never expected her personal journey to become a shared one. Later that evening, she walks home through the gentle evening breeze, and she stops for a moment under a tree near her apartment, closing her eyes and breathing deeply. She thinks about the girl she was when this journey began, the girl who feared speaking in meetings, the girl who practiced alone in cafes, the girl who recorded her voice late at night, the girl who walked into rooms feeling small. And she whispers softly, "Thank you," not to anyone around her, but to herself. Because she showed up, she practiced, she grew, she stayed patient, she trusted her voice even when it trembled, and now she stands in a new place, calm, confident, and ready for whatever comes next. She opens her eyes, looks at the sky, and smiles gently.
She does not need to be perfect.
She does not need to speak quickly. She only needs to speak with clarity and presence. That is enough. That will always be enough. And now this story meets you listening, learning, growing. You too can speak like this. You too can build confidence breath by breath, moment by moment. You too can practice slowly and become the voice others trust. Your journey is different from Aria's, of course, but the path is the same. Calmness, clarity, practice, patience. One meeting at a time.